Welcome to Lifestyles of the Not Jet Set, the travel and tourism show that lives in the world we wish existed rather than just the world that actually does. You may think that that's a euphemism for saying this is the naive travel and tourism show, but I hope as the show proceeds that you come to think of this as fairly understanding of human nature. Today, I'm in coastal Maine, sailing among the islands. One of my tasks today is to explore some of the camping sites that are on the Maine Island Trail Association app, a wonderful linked set of camping and picnic sites all up and down the coast of Maine that gives a public access to what otherwise would be just the playground for the rich and privileged. The Maine Island Trail Association and also the Maine Coastal Heritage Trust are two of those organizations that just inspire us with a sense of purpose for how the world could be better with a little bit of thought and a little bit of generosity. One of the islands that I may head to today is Harbor Island. Many islands in Maine are named with fascinating names like Hell's Half Acre or the Shivers. Some of them are named with such obvious names like Rock Island, and Harbor Island is one of those. This summer, my spouse and I have been going to a lot of these Maine Island Trail campsites, not camping at all of them, but just to look at them and to plan future travel. One that we had most fun at this summer was called the Goslings in Casco Bay. We persuaded a bunch of our friends to come and share a group campsite. We had two small open sailboats and four kayaks in a little fleet. The Goslings is one of several that we visited. We stopped also by Little Whaleboat Island and others in Casco Bay. Here, yesterday, my spouse and I sailed in this small open sailboat to Steve Island and met some of the campers there. The seals and the porpoises and the eagles are all kind of species that we have to care for and that we have to treasure the environment around us in order to have with us for future generations. And even things like watching the lobster boats working. Lobster industry in southern New England was under immense pressure because of increased temperatures in the water, probably due to climate change. In Rhode Island, the lobster industry has been greatly damaged. Here in down east Maine, the northeast part of coastal Maine, the lobster industry, at least through 2016, was doing fairly well. And, large harvest. And only since 2016 has the harvest been falling. And there's a lot of reflection within the industry on what could be the cause. In part, there's some concern about climate change, but there's also concern within the industry about regulation. The rules for what size lobster you're able to capture interact with rules about other species, such as protecting the North Atlantic right whale. Here as I'm in a wind-powered vehicle, I'm reflecting on all the dogma and rhetoric and falsehoods that are spread about wind power, about offshore wind energy is under a lot of attack during this current presidential administration. And it's so unfair, given, for example, the degree of danger for whales from fishing and from shipping. The local lobster community is very concerned about the overprotective, paternalistic attitude of the regulators. And yet at the same time, we all know that without a sense of mutual trust, things are going to be in bad shape. And that's true not just for the lobster industry. As I sail along here reflecting on the issues of the day, the lobster industry is just an illustration of the big things. The internationally, as part of international negotiations, it's so hard to reach good binding agreements on greenhouse gas emissions, partly because of distrust among the countries. Imagine asking China and India to reduce how much coal they use in planning their electric grid. Well, at the same time, people in privileged countries like North America and Europe sail in private jets and holidays by jet just as much as they ever did, it would make a person think that if they, as a lower middle income country leader, agreed to do what was needed in this time of climate crisis, that they would just be a sucker for the rich powers. No, what's really needed instead is a sense of mutuality and the most mutual trust that we can cultivate, not blaming each other, but each sector and each society tackling as best they can their particular burden to bear for the hard choices that need to be made in these times of climate change. And for people in privileged communities in the Northeast of the United States, for example, one of the key issues is aviation. Today, in this boat, this is a beautiful, beautiful little open wooden boat called the Peapod that Fred lent me for today's sail and for yesterday's sail. And the this is built by a local craftsperson, sort of a famous family name. I think the fellow's father had also been a boat builder, probably fishing boat builder. But there's other videos on YouTube that I admire so much. You must watch the videos of Roger Barnes, the evangelist for small open traditional wooden boat sailing. This little sailboat does well in low wind, and it's just aesthetically so pleasing. You can tell that just because the viewership is so low, that in part this whole show is not just entertainment and not just education, but in part my own therapy as I wrestle with my fear of missing out on the travels that I didn't do while I'm here in coastal Maine. But on a day like today, the whole prospect just sells itself.